For the last triple header of 2025, Formula One makes its way from the Vegas Strip, taking a very long trip to the Qatar GP. Originally, only a MotoGP track that has now been on the calendar since 2021 and given us quite memorable races. There's always some type of drama that goes on here with it being so hot and shredding the tires to the max, whether that be the curbs or those high-speed corners. But in 21, seeing those Formula One cars taking those curbs, putting in crazy laps, especially because we had that championship battle between Verstappen and Hamilton, it definitely gave us a very memorable first race. Then in 23, we had everybody sweating, almost fainting, falling over. And that was where we had the mandatory two-stop, which we will see this year. I'll talk about that very soon. In 24, I would say it was a little bit less eventful. Max Verstappen ended up going on to win it pretty comfortably. Yet again, a bit of drama with Lando getting that 10-second stop-and-go penalty, which completely took him out of fighting for that race win. Had him taken out of that race victory. Even though he had a slight chance, there was a possibility still. Now for 2025, we have 3 different drivers all fighting for that championship. We have a sprint and the main race, so a lot is at stake here in Qatar. Now, if we take a look at our preview, we're going to have the hardest compound C1, C2, C3, as this track probably on the calendar year has the most amount of tire stress. As mentioned earlier, now I'll talk about it a little bit more in depth. It is a 25-lap mandatory tire change here, which will mean a two-stop, and this was the same rule that was mandated in 2023 to prevent teams from going for longer strategies where the tires have a possibility of pretty much exploding and making the driver a passenger. Now, there is so much runoff here in Qatar. It's a very safe track when it comes to that, but they are going at very high speeds. And even in 24, they were taking down a lot of these curbs, chiseling them to get them to be softer. Yet again, it was still a tire shredder. And track limits plays a big factor here in qualifying, and we know 2025 to be pretty much a qualifying formula, and clean air makes the biggest difference with these cars and whether or not you can go on to win the race. So putting a lap together where you don't go out of track limits will be crucial for these drivers, especially the ones fighting for a championship. It does say traction of 3 here, but I would even argue a 4. This track can be a bit sandy and dusty, so traction can be very crucial, especially in Sector 1 where you're going to need it on the rears. But the fronts will take the beating because of this being so much high speed, and that front left is going to get killed here. Track evolution is pretty big. Last year, the first FP session really had nothing to do with what was going to happen in the GP. So setups are going to be a little tricky for teams, and some teams will benefit because of the sprint weekend. As for downforce, it is a 4 rather than a 5 because you still have that big straight, and that's where a lot of the overtakes happen, but you need the downforce for the high speed and preserving those tires. Now for the headlines, we already know. It's that championship battle. Who's going to win it? I talked a lot about who's got the best opportunity to take it. It's still in Lando's hands, and it's really his to lose. But Oscar over the years has liked the Qatar GP. He's done pretty well here. He did win the sprint race, but that was thanks to Lando giving it up to him. Now in 2023, he was the better of the two. Can he regain a little bit of form, find himself back in that confident, original Oscar we saw in the beginning of 2025? That's yet to be seen. Now Max does adore this track as well. Ever since it's been on the calendar, he's done pretty well. And I do expect him to be fighting towards the front here. That Red Bull car should be good, and with it being a mandatory two-stop, I think it's going to go his way much more than it will for the McLarens. And as for Lando, he's been doing the job. He's been confident, his mood has been up, and he's been ignoring the haters. It's going to be a big weekend and a career-defining one for Lando himself. Also, another thing we got to look out for, especially after the double DSQ in Las Vegas, is if every team will finish this GP and whether or not it will affect other teams on how much they're going to change their setup, whether it's going to be lower or higher. That'll be interesting to see. But with that, I want you guys to go on to Unchained Media Inc. Make your predictions for the weekend. We have 2 GPs left. Thank you all that have participated in this season. Still some prizes to be given out, and you do have a chance here. Go make them. And let's talk about mine for this weekend. All right, off the dome, per usual, my predictions were completely off, thanks to that double DSQ in Las Vegas. This weekend, I just have a feeling I'm going to be pretty spot on about this. There's a couple of teams we got to look out for. I think the Aston car, thanks to that mandatory two-stop, they shouldn't have too many tire problems. That could be a pretty good team here. And I do think Haas, with their recent upgrades and Ali just being in incredible form, he could be up here as well. But with that said, Kimi has been phenomenal. I gotta say, as next-gen driver, it's gonna be tough to pick anybody but Kimi right now. Having the Mercedes car, they've been pretty solid. I am gonna throw him up in NXG. He's been doing very well in this real ending of 2025, and he needed this. Even with that poor qualifying in Las Vegas in the wet where he made a mistake locked up, in the race he recovered, and I think that's been his biggest weakness so far in the year. It's race pace and preserving those tires, which is typical with these rookies. But he was the stronger of the two. If he started ahead of Russell, I don't think we would have seen George actually catch him. That's how good of a weekend it was for Kimi. It's going to be tough for the Mercedes car. I think they're better on tire preservation than they were in the previous seasons. It's not just due to temperature. But my top 5 is very tricky here. I have a feeling Ferrari's going to suffer very badly. Something is telling me this track is not going to work for them. I think the McLaren drivers are both going to be in the top 5. So with that, I'm actually going to keep out both Leclerc and Hamilton. I'm going to throw up Kimi in P5. I still don't believe him to be the better of the two. George Russell in P4. If you can tell by the trend, going pretty easy on these predictions. This is just the sense that I have. There's not going to be too much drama. Maybe there will be. I hope I'm wrong on that. It'd be nice to see possibly the McLarens go out, Max make his way up, or Oscar stays in, Lando goes out. We have a huge battle going on in Abu Dhabi, but that's not how I'm thinking. I still think Oscar's going to struggle with pace here. He's going to finish in P3, P2, P1. Now, this is the real kicker. I do think Max is going to get it done. It's going to take quite a lot for this miracle to happen, but I'm buying onto the hype. I think he's going to be P1 here in Qatar. There's a very big chance. The car should be good here. It's the next track where I'm pretty worried. But I do think that this battle could go on the whole time. Like, we could see changing in positions. It's not going to be too much undercut, overcut stuff with the mandatory 2-stop. Hopefully some overtakes. I hope dirty air doesn't play a big factor, but with these high-speed sections, I'm not sure. So in performance for pole position, I'm going to go with Max as well. I think this is his way to victory. If the McLaren gets ahead, it's going to be really tough to win. So I'm going to put Max in pole position. As for biggest loser, I'm actually, as I said it, I think the Haas car is going to do good here. And something is telling me Ali's going to have an off weekend. Qualify high, maybe go off the track. It's pretty tricky for drivers that have not driven in Qatar. In these Formula 1 cars, wind plays a factor. It's very dusty, very slidey. We saw it with Liam Lawson when he first joined the sport. Something tells me the rookies are going to have a bad time here, and Ali is just going to be the one that suffers, even though I've given him a lot of praise in the last 5 or 6 GPs, but throughout the season, I've talked very good about Behrman. Now we're going to take a look at biggest gainer. Last time I put Lance Stroll, that was a flop. I'm not going to do that. I think we could see a nice little resurgence from Liam. Qualify low, get up high, possibly in the points. I hope that for him, because it'd be really sad to not see him in a car next year. I do believe he deserves a spot. He's a driver that I actually really like as well. So hopefully Liam does good and preserves that seat. I think he's deserved it, considering he's been right up there with Hadjar. They're pretty mumuch equal in pace. Maybe Hadjar's a little bit more consistent. And as for fastest lap, I'm going to give this to Max. It's going to be tough to beat him when he's got a car under him that should be good. And if tire wear is not going to play a factor, I believe this guy's going to be pretty much flawless throughout this weekend. And looking at constructors based off of the drivers that I've made, it's going to be McLaren and P1. I still think they're going to have a very strong car here. It's going to be tough to beat them, but Max is Max. So that makes a difference. That will be your second in constructors thanks to him. I don't know if Yuki's going to be even in the top 10. Has the team been screwing him lately? A little bit, but he's also been very far behind on pace. I'm just not sure. This is a driver that I'm very certain we're not going to see in the next season. We'll probably get that report sometime after Abu Dhabi. Now looking at the third constructor, just based off what I made, it's going to be Mercedes. Mercedes is going to equal 22 points in the main race. And for fastest pit stop, I'm going to give it to Red Bull. They've been phenomenal as of lately, so I'm sticking with this on my predictions. So that's what I'm locking in for the predictions for this weekend. And for the sprint race, maybe we're going to see the McLarens collide. That's the thought process I have right now. Next year, we will implement that in the Unchained Race Week. Make sure you go drop your predictions down below. Thank you all for stopping by. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And peace.